I paid $140,000 to Alex Hermozi, the largest business creator on YouTube, to get his advice on a startup idea I have. And he taught me not to do it, but I did it anyway. After 6 months, it went pretty well. And here's what happened. Back in August last year, I was in Vegas to have a one-on-one sit down with him. It's actually not one-on-one. I sit down in a conference room with him with 9 other business owners. 140 grand for 1 day. So I want to do that because I have a startup idea. I am struggling to figure out whether I want to do it or not. I was like, hey, well, I'm going to pay someone who's better than me the money so I can learn from him. So I don't have to go through the wrong routes, and maybe he can tell me what's best to do with the business. So I think 140 might be worth it, because if I start the business and then it doesn't work, I will lose more money than 140 grand, right? So, but if he give me right advice, I'm gonna have a better start of the business. So I did it. Long story short, he told me not to do it because I'll be better off to stay within my own realm, which is real estate. So I was in real estate business for 14 years. I developed a lot of properties, over $100 million worth of properties. I also managed over $2 billion worth of real estate. So I had a pretty extensive experience in real estate investment world. I have this idea of doing tokenization business. I thought if I tokenize real estate and tokenize all the other assets and start a startup business, which is a service business, I might be able to actually help my real estate business also to tap into this blue ocean of tokenization world where everybody else is pushing for it. BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, JP Morgan, even Trump's family is tokenizing their real estate. So I figure this is the future. So I want to be part of the future. I want to do this. I think I'll make more money and also help my real estate business. Long story short, he told me not to do it. And I decided to do it anyway because I thought, at least this technology can help my business. I don't know if you guys know about tokenization. Basically, it's a way of tokenizing your company's securities. So you can start selling those securities via a token, a security token, which has to be regulated by SEC and the FINRA. But if you're selling these tokens, you can easily raise capital on the internet. So it's more accessible by the global investors because people can now investing with their USDT, their stablecoin, USDC. They can be anywhere in the world. They can start buying your company shares, whether it's real estate, whether it's small business shares, you can do that. This is actually a brand new business. I've never run a startup before. I only know real estate, but I own an investment bank. I bought an investment bank in 2019. I know how finance works. I know the problem. I know the pain point. So most of small business are all struggling to raise capital, and small business has been really hard to find capital. And 82% of business fail because of lack of cash flows. They couldn't get capital. And it's really hard to find financing options. SBA loans really expensive. It's really hard to qualify. And then most of other financing options is not viable. So I thought if I can tokenize the assets of real estate or small business, I could actually raise more money from global investors while giving them access to really good assets they never had access before. Because private equities has always been reserved for the super wealthies. The smaller investors have no access to it at all, and if they could, they don't have the money to invest because it's really expensive. We're talking about $500,000 minimum investments or $1 million minimum investments for most cases. So if you want to invest in private equity, which I think is one of the best billionaire generator, you don't have the money to invest or you're not qualified. You have to be accredited investor to invest. I thought tokenization will lower the barrier, allow the investor from the globe to be able to access the private equity opportunities to build wealth by allowing people to buy the fractional ownership that's tokenized on the blockchain. So that means it's easier to buy. You can buy with US dollar or you can buy with stablecoin crypto. And then you can then transact, you can trade it peer-to-peer. You can put it on the exchange to sell them. So it's more liquid, right? And it's more transparent because you can see all the ownership records on the blockchain. So I did my tokenized real estate founding back in 2022, and I spent a lot of money on compliance, make sure everything's compliant. It went okay, but I didn't have a lot of attractions. That's only until 2025 is when the White House published the law that legalized, stablecoins, and then everyone is big on this RWA, real world asset tokenization. So BlackRock, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Franklin Templeton, everyone's tokenizing their money market fund. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, said he thinks everything will be tokenized. And Trump family has tokenized their, assets. They've tokenized a luxury resorts in Maldives. And then I've heard BlackRock have a new tokenized fund called Build, They have $1.6 billion or more tokenized already, but no one's been tokenizing real estate. No one's been doing that for private equity. I thought, okay, if I start a platform and helping small business and small real estate operators to tokenize their assets, their business, and then allow them to raise capital globally, and at the same time help the global investor to access those previously exclusive markets, it's a win-win situation, right? Business owners get more funding to grow their business, and then the investors can actually now have access to legitimate business in the real world without paying like overpriced money like they pay in the stock market, right? Not to mention, a lot of foreign investors do not even have access to the US stock market. They can't even open a brokerage account. And so most people are left with investing traditional cryptos, but most of cryptocurrencies are pretty out of thin air. They have no value at all, including Bitcoin. There's a bunch of code. There's no real world intrinsic value tied to those coins. Now, if they have access to buy those coins that represent ownership in the real world assets, I feel like they could start, building wealth from those real assets, right? And then there can be anyone in the world to buy them. I feel like this is a good opportunity, so I did it. Spending over $1 million on top of the $2 million already spent on creating my tokenized real estate fund. I literally copied the technology, made it into a platform that allows me to basically cookie cutters and basically help other people issue their security tokens in a legal compliance way, but much quicker, much faster, much cheaper. So that's what I did. Instead of spending $500,000 to create tokenized smart contracts, pay for the compliance fee, do the whole DApp, make sure your token is in compliance with the specific transfer restrictions required by SEC, I can do that for $10,000. So anybody can come to my platform and tokenize their securities for $10,000, and everything's compliant. So I thought that's a brilliant idea. I ran the idea by Alex. He said that's a horrible idea, and because you don't know anything about startup, you never did it before, it's pretty hard, and you might as well just stay in your own corner doing your own real estate business. I was like, real estate really depends on the market conditions. The last few years have been really, really bad for real estate because the interest rate is really high. When interest is really high, you have less investors, you have less buyers. So real estate has been pretty dead for the last few years. I was like, I don't think I can swing the whole market. It doesn't matter how hard I work, I can't go against the whole market. I thought I'll be better off hold on to my real estate business because the markets don't like it. It's hard to raise money, it's hard to do real estate. You might as well just wait it out until the market gets better, then you do it. In the same time, you have a few choices. I either continue to grow my investment banking business, which is also transaction-based, or I do this tokenization platform, which I think that would help a lot of small business solving their problem of capital and helping investors to solving their problem of having access to real-world assets that has real intrinsic value and selling at a fair price. He told me not to do it because I don't know anything about startup. I don't know anything about starting this technology business. I'm better off staying in my real estate business because I know what I do, right? Because I've been doing that for 14 years, never lost money. I have way more advantage to stay in doing the real estate business. Like I said, the market is really, really hard, really, really tough. And so I argued with him, and at the end he says, okay, Johnny, if you want to do it anyway, why don't you do it as a supplement to your real estate business, not as a main focus, but as a supplement to your business. So I did it. I launched the platform in December 2025. I launched my first projects on that. So basically I have a development project in Glendale, California. I was going to raise some money. I was like, let me test it out. Maybe I'll raise $100,000, right? Just to test it out. Surprisingly, I raised $1.9 million in 20 days. So that's 1,900% surpassed the goal, basically, which is crazy, right? So that actually proves that the startup idea is actually legit. I mean, there are real demand on that, right? So my goal now is to help other people issue their tokens, help them to raise money, also allow the investor communities to get more access to more good assets that they can invest in so they can make passive income and eventually achieve financial freedom with passive income. That's what I believe in. So back to Alex. So I think he was right by telling me focus on what I do the best, because that's always a safe route, right? If I just keep doing what I'm doing, I have an unfair advantage on doing that because I have a 14 years of track record and no one else have. Very few people have that. And then if I continue to do what I do, I can make better return investments. He's right. But he's also wrong because I don't think he's really an expert in real estate. He's really good on building a gym business and then selling coaching services. I mean, I still really admire him, but I don't think he knows real estate that much. He doesn't know that real estate business really depends on interest rate, really follows the cycles, right? So when real estate is on the bear market, it's really, really hard to fight against the whole market. It's really hard to raise money, and real estate is always capital intensive. You need a lot of capital to do it. So for example, a few of my projects, you need to borrow money from a bank, and when the market is bad, when the interest is really high, you can't borrow as much as you can. And the interest is way higher, so your cost to finance is much higher. When the market is bad, like say the trade war happens, your material cost is higher, the labor cost is higher. So it means your whole cost is higher. So your whole project could be upside down just because the market is bad. And there's nothing you can do about it. Then if your investor sees the numbers because, well, the return is not as attractive, why would they invest? I can just put my money in stock markets, right? They don't have to invest in real estate. Especially last few years, the stock market has been doing really well. You can make easily 20% returns on S&P 500. You don't have to make money in real estate, which is more, I guess, risky because you have more leverage. So that's why I didn't continue full real estate, because I don't think that's the best use of my time and my money and my resources. Also, another reason is I think tokenization has a way bigger market potential. I think everything is right. Everything will be tokenized in the future. So if I can be part of that future while helping small business tokenizing the private equities, I can make way more money by helping people much faster. So my journey to a billionaire will be accelerated if I focus on tokenization, which I can scale a lot faster than real estate. I can tokenize 100 tokens within a week. I can't do 100 projects in a year. It's not possible. So I thought the software business is going to grow a lot faster. Yes, it's hard. Everything's hard, right? But I thought scaling a software business with real demand is actually easier than trying to grow a real estate business at a down market, at a bear market. So I think Alex is just helping me to choose a safer route, because he told me that it's more risky to do a startup, right? But I did it anyway because I guess I'm young, I'm willing to take a risk. So we'll see. Well, to be continued. If you're thinking about taking his course, the 140 grand course, I'll tell you that, first of all, the L1 course of 5,000 is definitely worth it. You definitely should take it. The L2, I'm not sure about it, because when you buy L3, you have the L2 already. So L2 is basically you meet with his team twice a year, and then your team will analyze your business and tell you what to do. I feel like I got more value from him one-on-one. His team, I don't feel his team gave me enough value. So I did one meeting out of the 2 meetings I was supposed to do with L2. That meeting did not impress me at all. So I'm not sure the L2, but maybe other people think differently. At least it didn't help me much. So the L3 with Alex, the 140 grand, I felt like it didn't help me as much because I went against his advice. But yet, I haven't seen it yet. But for other business, because I was the 9th one, I think, out of the 10 meetings, the second to last. The first 8 business, they're all like service-based. Someone have a coaching business, someone have a webinar business, someone have a home service business, basically roofing and I think flooring. I sat through all the sessions on how he advised the 8 other business owners. They're really helpful. A lot of businesses are doing like about $2-3 million. Some businesses are actually doing 5. I think by just taking his advice, they can at least increase the business by 50%, which is well worth it, the 140 grand, because they can make way more than the 140 grand they paid for. So I feel like if they have a traditional brick and mortar business, a service business, I think it's definitely worth it. But if you have a really unique business like mine, I have one thing to tell you is like, don't do it. But that's the same thing he told me, just don't do it, right? Because he was gonna tell you that. Because he's a big believer of focusing on what you do the best and don't divert your attentions. So you can actually get the same advice from his free courses, from his free YouTube channels. You don't have to pay for it to get that advice. But if you want a specific advice on something specific you're doing and it's a brick and mortar, it's a service business, then it's worth it. So that's it. I'll give more updates as I develop more progress on my business, on my startup. I'll let you guys know. But if you guys have any thoughts and questions, leave a comment below. I'll respond to every one of you. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if this is helpful.